Hey everyone, how you doing? Today I wanted to come in because there was, as you know, I draw a card every single day, and I find it really interesting when you have a card that comes up twice very often. So that is always a really big indication that there is a very big message that's trying to get through to you that sometimes we just dismiss or may not see the significance of it. So the card that came up for the last 2 days, and also too inside of my own private group, as my students, we have been receiving this card quite frequently. So for me, that's a really big alarm bell, and I like to be able to come in and offer some insight on how you can move through this time. So the card that came up is Shadow Self. And what Shadow Self is when we receive, hey Beth, how are you, honey? Where we are not having great internal dialogue with our own self, where we are putting ourselves down. Hey Anna, hey, how are you, gorgeous? Where our internal dialogue is not in alignment with the direction that we want to go, where we start to realize that we're starting to thrive in a certain area, but there is something that is resisting or holding you back. And so the shadow self is bringing this into your awareness for you to become more consciously aware of the internal dialogue that you're having. Hey Kim, how are you? No worries, sweetie. Oh, thank you. I'm so pleased you find that a really great card, Beth. It's such a really, really important message because, as I always say, our soul always communicates to us, and oracle cards give us that opportunity to get that insight in. So we can see certain patterns emerging and being created if we're definitely having same consecutive cards coming up. Now this creates an alarm bell for me because it means that we as a human consciousness, we think that if we have this internal dialogue going on with our own self where we are not talking to ourselves as like we should, that it's okay because no one else can hear it. But that's really, really wrong, because if you're hearing it, you are creating your own belief system through your own internal dialogue. So if you think that it's making no difference because no one else can hear you, this is really incorrect. So I'd just love to know if this is really connecting, if you're finding that you're finding little old habits of internal dialogue where you're putting yourself down or doubting yourself or using, not uplifting types of language with your own self. So the fastest way to be able to shift through this is to be able to bring a lot of awareness to the language that you use. Our language is one of the greatest bits of insight where we get to really see an overview of what is really going on inside of our inner world. We will use language like, I can't do that, or I'm not good enough, or this isn't working for me, or why is everything always going wrong? And this type of language is a way that holds you in a very, very low vibration. I totally appreciate your honesty, Beth, because we all have something that we will say to ourselves that is a way of just personally attacking yourself, really, in a way. And sometimes we think that if we do it in a joking manner, that it doesn't really matter, like, oh, like I really fucked up, or things aren't going well for me, and add a laugh to it at the end. It's still an insider view as to what is really going on within your inner world. Hey, Jean-Marie, how are you? But these are all very old ways of being. Now, there is a beautiful... We're always evolving, and when this card comes up often, it's an indication that you are holding your own self back. Hey Shaman, how are you, honey? And the fastest way to be able to move through some of those old patterns and those old ways of being with yourself is to be able to change your language. So I'm not sure who that is that's wanting to join the video. Please feel free to join, but I won't be adding anyone in. Oh, you're so gorgeous, Jean-Marie. So as I said, going back to what I was saying, getting really aware of the language that you use is really important. And this is where it's time to bring in a non-judgment. For the next day or so, just be really consciously aware of the type of language that you're saying. Listen to the words that you're using, because your words will hold an energetic vibration. When you say you can't do something, it's very low vibing. Yet if you use the word I can, it instantly elevates you up and opens your mind to expansive thinking of, oh, if I can do this, how am I going to do it? Whereas if you say you can't, you start to bury yourself down into that lower vibe, where then you start to think everything, you can't do anything. And this is how easy it is to be able to radically shift our belief systems, is through our language. So as I said, the very first thing I always suggest with my students as well is to be able to just become consciously aware of the language that you're using, and don't judge yourself. If you happen to use, I'm just going to use your phrase, Beth, so I hope you don't mind, hun. Beth says that she calls herself a dickhead. So if you hear yourself calling yourself a dickhead, just bring that into your awareness, how many times you may say that to yourself. And in what context are you just using it all the time because you're just so accustomed to saying it? Do you say it because that's actually your way of saying you're not good enough, or what you're doing isn't good enough? Get tuned into where you're using this language and under what context are you using it. Hey Elizabeth, how are you, honey? This gives you so much intuitive insight. A lot of people are unaware of how our intuition works. It is working all the time. All the time is it bringing us intuitive guidance for us to help us elevate and grow. So our language is a really good way because our language needs to be a match to the person that you're growing into. So if you're saying you can't do this, you can't do something, yet you're really working hard and diligently to wanting to pursue something, guess what? You're going to have a total mismatch of what's going on. Your language is not going to match your actions, and so therefore you're going to have consistent resistance going on and create these mental, emotional, and physical blocks all the time just because of our language. So if we bring, hey Shirley, hey Matisse, if we get more insight, thank you everyone for all the gorgeous hearts and thumbs up. Yeah, look, we use this, that's so great, Charmin and Beth, for like sharing this, because we don't realize how much we throw these words around. Oh, I'm a dickhead, or I'm stupid, or I'm so stupid and I can't do this, and la 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 la, and we forget how frequently we use them. But each and every time they are creating your belief. So if you're trying to move in an awesome new direction of growth and evolution and spiritual awareness, the first place you want to start is with your language, because it gives you so much insider information as to what is actually really going on in your belief systems within your own self. So then the awesome thing is that once you have become aware of the type of language that you're using, under what context and how frequently you're using it, this is where we get to create rapid, radical, awesome transformational change. Because the moment that we start being aware of the language that we're using on a frequent and consistent basis is the moment that when we have awareness, the awareness is where we get to create change. So the next time when you hear yourself say, i.e., I'm a dickhead, you stop, you remember that you can create change, and just go in and go, you know what? That's a belief I don't believe in anymore. And I apologize to myself. Now, I know this sounds so silly, but this is how we create change, because every time you are saying something negative or something so incredibly low vibing, that is like, for me, certain types of words suck the life out of your soul. And I always had a ban, and still do to this day, that there are words that are banned in my house, which is stupid, silly, and there's obviously some other words that are banned, but they're my main words. There was never to be ever mentioned that I would ever say to my kids they were stupid, or why are you being so silly. Those are very, very degrading words that will stain a person's soul, and they will carry that like a scar for the rest of their life, and put that on repeat even until they're adults. And this is where, when we start to learn that within our own consciousness that we can create change for ourselves, you are going to become so much more aware of the language that your partner or your children use, and be able to interject and remind them that they are freaking amazing, and that through changing a little word here or there, can radically shift the vibration of how they feel about themselves. Most of us, by the time we've got to adulthood, all will have certain phrases that were said to you when you were a kid that will still sit deeply in your soul. Even if you don't believe it, it still sits deeply within your soul because you were told it so many times. This is where, when we become an adult, we get to be able to go, you know what, that was what I had heard, but it's not part of my belief system. So I'm going to spend the time doing that inner work to start making sure that my beliefs match the person that I am today. You don't need to hold on to shitty bits of information that was said to you, or what I call fraction words, because they fracture your soul when you are told that you're stupid or you're silly or you're not good enough, or any of those kind of very, very degrading words. They fracture your soul. We use an energy to create distant envelope. So very, very true, Jean-Marie. Thank you so much for sharing that. Hey Dee, hey Raj. So this, with that card coming up twice in the last couple of days, and as I said, it's been coming up in my group frequently, and it's also been a card that they have chosen for their groups and their pages as well. For me, this is such an important time to be able to step forward and share information to help all of you gorgeous souls to be able to step into the beautiful being that you are. You are not the language that you keep saying to yourself. Change it, improve it. Let it match the gorgeous person that you are growing into. And we do that through conscious awareness of catching ourselves when we say shitty, horrible, nasty words to ourselves, and stop that cycle and start bringing in words that actually validate the gorgeous person that you are. And it will seem funny at the beginning when you're doing it. Like all of a sudden, if you hear yourself say, you know, I'm a dickhead, and then all of a sudden you stop and you go, you know what, actually, I'm a freaking awesome, gorgeous being. Of course, you're naturally going to have a giggle because, one, you're not used to hearing it, but also, two, that giggle, when you have it, the beautiful thing is that giggle sends a new vibration. It shifts that energy within your structure. It shifts the energy in your mindset. And therefore, that new word and that new expression that you're saying to yourself starts to slowly embed in yourself. And this is where it becomes very, very powerful, because you get to decide the beliefs that you want, not what's being given to you or what you've been told you should be. You get to decide what belief you want to have, regardless what you've been taught for many times. Definitely, it totally shifts. So I would love to really encourage each and every one of you to bring mindfulness into the language that you're using over the next couple of days. As I said, hey Tracy, hey Michelle. Number one, just don't judge. Just bring into awareness the types of language that where you're degrading yourself, putting yourself down. Look at the types of phrases that you use with yourself. Look at the context where you say it, because sometimes you might just say it when you're frustrated, but other times you may find that you use it all the time. You've become so accustomed to saying that you say it all the time, and that gives us gorgeous insight. And then the next step is going, okay, actually stopping yourself the next time you hear you say it. Don't go in and continue that cycle of beating yourself up. The next time you hear yourself use those degrading language, to be able to catch yourself and go, do I actually believe this BS that I'm saying to myself? Or is it just a completely unconsciousness that I've become accustomed to? Which means if the answer to that is yes, the gorgeous thing is that you can interject and create change. If your body and mind is accustomed to saying that, you can create new customs within yourself. So you catch yourself out, replace that word with something even more powerful, with the belief that you believe to this day for the person that you are. And this is where we get to build ourselves up. We get to bring our beliefs into alignment with the beautiful person you are. And you know what? At the end of the day, you start treating yourself with some freaking respect. Every time you put yourself down, you're disrespecting yourself. That's sad, because you probably wouldn't let someone else degrade you, but you're letting yourself do this to your own freaking self. And that is shit. Like, it's just totally shit if you're doing that to yourself. So these patterns, even though they may run on repeat, there's something that you've learned, something you've been taught, you can also restructure and rechange that and inject and bring new things in. That's okay. That's a really good point to point out, Shaman, where she says she doesn't use, because she also uses the phrase of I'm a dickhead. She says she doesn't do it because she thinks she's stupid or dumb. I say it because I can't believe I did that and don't think I'm dumb, but at times I'm the smartest person, can really do silly things. That is so true, and that is why I put out a video yesterday to say that we are, if you haven't seen it, I put out a video yesterday and there were purposely spelling mistakes in there for people to see the punt in it. That we as humans, we have this spiritual aspect within ourselves. We have a soul that is so highly evolved and more evolved than the human aspect within ourselves. But the human aspect of ourselves has never lived this reality before, and the way that we learn, grow, evolve, and develop is through the mistakes that we make. So we get to be able to see that we are doing or being in certain ways with ourselves that are no longer a match, and therefore this is where our intuitive side comes in and goes, hey, you can create change. And then the human part goes, really? I can actually change this. I don't have to keep doing this with it to myself, or that it's okay to remember that you just make a mistake and freaking move on. Every person makes a mistake. You're going to make mistakes for the rest of your entire life, because that is how we learn, grow, and evolve, because we learn through the mistakes that we make. We get to see insight into what is the lesson behind the mistakes that we make, and to just give yourself a freaking break. If you were perfect, then you wouldn't be put on this earth. And I say that frequently. I say the day you stop learning is the day that you leave this lifetime, because you no longer need to learn anything. You've learned all your lessons. But while you keep making mistakes, while you keep learning, you are in a space of continually evolving. And that is what you're here to do. You are designed to evolve. Just like a computer, you constantly need updating. The person that you are now will not be the same person that you are in 6 months. Why? Because you will have done inner work. Different things will have happened to you that have helped you learn, grow, and evolve. And this is where it's important when we understand where our language is. Sometimes we might have language that is a match to the version of yourself that was 10 years ago. You can't have that kind of a mismatch. You need everything in alignment and everything can flow. And so our soul will give us insight to go, hey, why are you trash talking yourself like this? It's time you change this, because you're no longer that person and you actually don't believe this BS. So change your language. Language has an incredible vibration. You would have heard the expression many, many times before where they say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Sometimes, and this is the power of language, this is the power of words, is that all words hold a vibrational frequency. I could say to someone, you look absolutely gorgeous, and say it in a really nice tone, or I could say it in a really condescending way going, yeah, well, you look really gorgeous. And you know that the words are said the same, but the intention and the vibration of the words are not the same. So this is where it's important to understand that you can inject a word that radically shifts. Like, say, for example, something happens and it's just not working out the way that you want, or you could say, most people will go, oh, I haven't done that, and finish the sentence. But if you were to just add one word to that sentence, it will radically change that whole sentence by saying, I haven't done that yet. Immediately, your mind will go, I can still go and accomplish that. I can still do this. I've still got time. I can still keep working towards that. But if you say you can't do something, that's it. That's the end of the equation, and you stop dead and you don't even continue to try. So this is where it's so vital to understand that the language that you're speaking to yourself is building your beliefs. So if you want to believe in yourself, start looking at the language that you're having. Make sure that the language that you're using is a match for the person that you are now and the person that you're growing into, because this is where you can change your life. So simple. And the beautiful thing is, when you start becoming conscious aware of the language that you use, and that just that awareness to language, it's going to open up a new frequency where you're going to start becoming really conscious of the words that other people use, and being able to go, maybe I could just say to them, give them something positive for them to be able to interject into the way that they're talking. Like, you know, I have a husband and son that go and work in the building industry, and they both come home, oh, I've had a shit day. Was it really shit all day? Oh, no, I just had this moment with this person. That's right, you had a moment. It wasn't the whole day, and it doesn't need to drag on for a short period of time. You just had a little bit of a fallout with a person. Now move on. So that they don't build a belief system that their whole entire day was crap. And this is how vital it is that you get to be able to change that perception for them. Or else, you know, if a person thinks they've had a whole shit day, it will just continue on throughout the whole entire day, and usually make them go to bed in a crappy mood, wake up in a shitty mood, and then they've already predestined themselves to have another shitty day. So if we get really honest with ourselves and get really truthful about where we're at and the language that we're using with ourselves, this is the moment of empowerment, because we realize that we can just immediately shift that language to be able to vibrate at the frequency that we want, and language that is going to inspire us, language that is going to motivate us, and language that actually respects the person that you are. And that's the most important thing, because we hear that expression of the way that you treat yourself sets the tone for how other people treat you. And not just that, the gorgeous thing is the moment you start creating this change in language for yourself, you start creating change for all your family members, all your friends, all the people around you, because you will bring it so much more into your awareness that you will then want to help encourage other people to start speaking nicely and being more respectful of themselves. And so this is how we can create a massive global conscious awareness and conscious change, just through being aware of the language. And you know what? It certainly doesn't hurt the soul to say to yourself, you know what? You're freaking gorgeous. You're amazing. You're a badass. And you can do freaking anything that you want to do. Hey, I would much rather hear that than say, you're a total dipshit. You're fucking useless at doing everything, so you should stop trying. Or that is just not going to encourage or inspire you in any freaking way, in any way, shape or form. And in fact, what happens is it just starts destroying your soul, almost like as if acid and water, it just destroys the soul. Why do that? I'm sure there's probably been other people along your journey that have done that to you, but there is no excuse for you to continue the cycle and keep doing it to yourself. You can create the life that you desire just through matching your language to respecting yourself, having enough courage to change the beliefs that have been embedded into you, not always from other people. Sometimes we embed those in ourselves just to do certain experiences, but we can change this radically. So this was something that was such a huge alarm bell for me, as I said, when I have an oracle card that comes out frequently and is showing up all the time. And today's card is Shadow Self, which is that aspect of ourself that we think, well, if other people can't hear the language that we're talking to ourselves, then it's perfectly okay. And it's freaking not. The internal dialogue that you have with your own self is either going to uplift you, inspire and motivate you, or it's going to pull you down, it's going to degrade you, and it's going to keep you in a really shitty place. And I tell you, I think I choose the first option, because we're here to be able to enjoy this experience, so we get to decide how we want it to be, how you want it to be, through the language that you want. So hey Corey, hey Kevin, hey Pen, how are you, hon? Sorry, I just had a call. I really hope this has given everyone a little bit of insider information on how to be able to start creating beautiful new beliefs, how to bring more awareness to those types of language that we say to ourselves that we think is a little bit of a joke when it's really not, and be able to give you some form of encouragement and inspire all you gorgeous, amazing souls out there to start creating the life that you want through the language that you choose. So if you would like any more information, just throw it in the comments area. I'm happy to help any one of you. And I wish you all the best. And remember, you're all gorgeous, amazing souls here, all for something amazing. Make sure that the language that you choose is a match with that gorgeous soul that you have. Much love. Take care and be good.